Since 1984, North Shore Food Bank has been a cornerstone of downtown Covington, proudly serving all of St. Tammany Parish. Each week, we provide essential supplemental food resources to more than 350 households and partner organizations to support the most vulnerable in our community. Directly addressing food insecurity through a number of different programs, North Shore Food Bank specifically delivers weekend food bags to 8 different public elementary schools and also to operate student choice pantries in 3 public high schools for those experiencing homelessness. Join the fight. Visit northshorefoodbank.org to learn how. Welcome into the Handycast for Monday, April the 20th. I'm Charles Hanagriff, along with former Tiger coach Dan Canevari. LSU drops 3 over the weekend to Texas A&M, 10-4, 7-2, and 5-2. Dan, we could talk about those games, but it's not, in my opinion, really the story of what's going on right now. But well, first of all, let me say, how are you? I know it was a rough weekend for all of us watching, but how are you?
I'm great, Charlie. I mean, it was a rough weekend to watch. And, I'm doing great, though. Weather's good. Everybody's happy. It's Louisiana. It's the sun's still coming up. So, all's good. We just hope the team can pick it up a little bit. I'm just feel bad for the fans and the coaching staff,
So let's get into, because I think that was the story of the weekend, is Jay Johnson, who has done beyond a phenomenal job here, and his record speaks for that, and who is not in any way, in my opinion, controversial or attention-seeking with his comments or ever trying to really coach his team through the media or anything like that. Certainly not bombastic. With any of it. Probably the most controversial thing he's done here in 4 years is got to do with the length of some of the weather delays. Okay. So when he made the comment.
Oh, no, and he also, Charlie, and also he always protects his players.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the media. He doesn't ever bash the players.
So when he made the comments that he did after the game Friday night, it certainly got my attention, and I think was an indication of his frustration kind of boiling over at that point. And so let me read the quote. It says, "I made some mistakes in constructing the team and trying to replace 2 guys that were irreplaceable, where we should have looked at replacing them through guys that were already in the program and then replace the guys that were athletic and could play defense and be more complete players. Okay, we won't make that mistake again. The power moving forward will be from players that start their career here and develop into it like Jake Brown has." Dan, what were your first thoughts when you heard Jay say that?
First, frustration from Jay's end. 2, it's a good statement, meaning, they went with the modern model. The NIL, the portal baseball. You got to go out and get players. You're LSU. You got to compete every year. It's hard to get guys to come in and sit for a year, or they play behind somebody and not leave, if they get there. And so it's the way baseball is right now. It's the way college athletics is right now. And hopefully all this will create some change in the way they do business, the way they handle college athletics. But, my interpretation is he's letting the fans know, like, he's not accepting this, and he took the blame for making some mistakes and making some judgments he thought were good. And hey, for 4 years he's made the postseason. He's won 2 of the last 3 national championships, so he's been run a lot. But this time, he's batting 180. You got some people that aren't performing at the level they thought they would project to, and so he's taking the blame for that. He's not putting it on the players. He's just saying they made some mistakes in their judgments and the way they constructed the roster. I like the fact he's going the Jake Brown, Cade Anderson route. I do believe, and again, maybe it's where I grew up at LSU baseball, where I come from. I think there's something about having these kids that are in the program 3, 4, 5 years that come from Louisiana makes a difference in the way you play in the field.
I love that, Dan, except, and if it were ever to go back to that, I'd be fine with it. But I have to ask, Paul Skeens came out of the transfer portal. So did Tommy White and Thatcher Hurd and Anthony Ianson and Daniel Dickinson and Luis Hernandez, and I could go on. Guys that were stalwarts on national championship team. I mean, they don't win the 2023 national championship without Skeens and White and Hurd. Now they don't win it without Gavin Dugas and Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan and I get that, but you can't abandon the portal. They've had a lot of success with the portal. So to me, it's not a portal or non-portal thing. It's how are you allocating your resources in the portal and how you're evaluating kids, because they've done a great job of evaluating kids and using their resources in the portal in 4 out of 5 years. This year, they just missed on some kids. And I don't know that you want to change your entire approach to the portal, but maybe in some of your scouting, maybe in some of your resource allocation, you look at what you're doing.
I think that's fair. I think the thing is, with this, you've got to have a mix. I think what Jay's really trying to say, or at least I'm guessing what he's trying to say, is that he's trying to build a team of kids that are in the program, freshmen that develop, guys from Louisiana. And then when you're missing things, much like when I was coaching, you picked up junior college guys to fill some gaps when guys weren't ready, or you thought you had a guy and he left and got injured, things like that. So I think they just really got portal reliant because of the way the teams were. They were winning, and now you lose your whole team, and then some guys that were backups that didn't get to play as much as they wanted because you had these great players playing in the postseason. Before you even finished the season, they jumped ship and went to some other places where they were guaranteed playing time. And Jay, being an old school guy, probably said, hey, listen, you got to come back and compete for playing time. We can't guarantee anything. This is a competitive nature. So it's a very difficult thing. I want to bring out one thing, though. When Jay or anybody plays for the national championship, you can look back at the last few national championships that have been won by Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Tennessee, others. The next year is not usually as good, and back-to-back is very, very difficult in this day and age. And the reason is, especially now, the season's so long and the way the recruiting calendar is and with the transfer portal, if you're playing in Omaha and trying to win it all, you're playing longer than anybody else, and everybody else is recruiting full-time while you're playing, trying to finish out your season. And they're probably offering pretty good sums to say, hey, you sign with us now. If you wait, we won't have that offer anymore, and they're waiting on LSU. And so it makes it very difficult. It's kind of like you got to – if you win, you're penalized in recruiting.
And I understand that. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there were days in Omaha in both 23 and 25 that Jay spent as much time in a single day on the next year's team as he did on the team that was competing for the national title right there. That wouldn't, especially the days that they didn't have games.
No, they had to.
Yeah. And I understand the constraint. Nick Saban used to complain about that in football. He said, yeah, well, we won the national championship, but we're 2 weeks behind in recruiting. And as ridiculous as it sounds, it's absolutely right that you are a little bit compromised moving forward.
Sure, he's spending an extra, all his time coaching the team and recruiting, but it's still not enough time on recruiting because everybody else is full time because their seasons are over. And people don't realize recruiting's hard. I mean, people here in Louisiana, they think everybody wants to come to LSU. Well, especially now in this portal and the NIL era, it's not the same as it used to be. And so it's important to get guys locked in early. I think Jay's going to lock into a lot more freshmen early, and then use the portal at the end to fill in some gaps, not rely on it early. So
we're brought to you by everythinglsu.com. You want your Lane Kiffin gear right now, the Lane Train sweatshirts, T-shirts, the caps, the decals are available right now at everythinglsu.com. Your vintage sweatshirts, your national championship gear from last year, LSU polos, the purples, the grays, the blacks, your Sailor Mike, your vintage polos, your Lynn Rollins fan, pucker up and kiss that baby goodbye T-shirts, lots of additional merchandise at everythinglsu.com, shipping out of Baton Rouge, everythinglsu.com, and also by Marucci Sports. if you want to take your kids into the heart of the game, set up a Marucci campus tour founded by two former big leaguers and their trainer. They handcrafted the bats going from a startup all the way to the best bats and the official bat of Major League Baseball. You can book a tour. You can book a group tour. You can get into the working wood shops, the paint booths, the finishing rooms, museum-style exhibits to see how it all started at Marucci. Then you can shop for limited edition gear in the gift shop. There are discounts available. For more information or to book your tour, go to maruccisports.com/campus-tour, maruccisports.com/campus-tour. Dan, when we talk about the remaking of the roster, okay, this to me is the interesting part, because there's always going to have to be a balance between the high school kids that come up through your program and kids that you add. When he says he's made some mistakes, what do you think some specific things that he is looking for? Like, should he have maybe put more emphasis on bringing in another starting pitcher, or a catcher that was more defensive oriented, or players that were a little bit better defensively but maybe didn't hit as many home runs? I mean, I'm trying to get at the crux of what where he thinks he's made his biggest mistakes.
I think it's getting guys that fall into his system and are willing to buy into the system. I think he wants to spend more time with the kids, talking to them about what we do here at LSU and what kind of at-bats we want to have, what our philosophy is. I think he got guys that, I think he brought this out, is that he brought guys in trying to fill some power numbers, looking at, we got to replace kind of the Moneyball thing. We've got to replace X amount of homers. And so here we've got these guys that hit it out in all these different places, and we think that's going to transfer into the SEC, when in fact it didn't. And so when you're relying on that, that makes a big difference. I think relying on more contact, more consistency in the lineup, things like that. Pitchers, guys with 2-3 pitch mixes, maybe not all flamethrowers, maybe guys with different styles that are around the plate more. So I think it's more of a feel of getting guys that come in and having more and more talks with them and more interviews about fitting into what Jay wants for an LSU player. I think, people talk about culture all the time. When you talk about culture, it's the way you do things. And I don't know, and from what I'm seeing, if everyone on this team is bought into what Jay's doing. They did it somewhere else. They were successful. They come here, they're not successful right away, and then they go back to what they did. It's not working, and now they can't figure it out because it's just difficult halfway through the season to figure out, hey, I probably should have gone with Jay's method, but I was stubborn. I went back to what was comfortable. It's not going to work at this level. And so the problem is they're going to say, well, I'll just go to the portal. I'll find another place next year. And there's no accountability left, for the rest of the year. It's kind of like football players opting out of the bowl game at the end of the season if they're not playing for the national championship. Same thing.
Dan, I want to get your take on the current state of youth league baseball, travel ball, showcase ball, because this tends to be where what gets blamed if kids aren't playing the game the right way, or quote unquote the right way. So you tell me, you've coached youth baseball, you are around it all the time, you know everything there is to know about how youth league baseball has evolved over the last 2 decades. So you tell me, is that the biggest problem? Individuality, a lack of the fundamentals of the game in exchange for, like Jay said, velocity or exit or launch angles, exit velocity, things like that?
Yes, and yes. How's that for your answers?
Expound, please, because you're around this all the time.
I'm around it all the time. One is it's really kind of eye-opening for me when a kid comes in and say he throws a pitch, or he comes into the facility to work out or whatever the first time with a dad, comes in, joins a membership, comes in and throws, and he goes, or guys pitching in a game, how hard do you think he's throwing? The kid's 10. What are you talking about? How hard is he throwing? Can he throw the ball over the plate? What's his motion look like? Can he throw strikes? That's what you're looking at 10. But this metrics, What's his exit velocity? Pocket rate. Dads have pocket radars. Instead of the fundamentals of the game, does he throw the ball over the plate? Does he have a good motion? Is his mechanics good? Does he if he throws a changeup, does it look like his fastball? Can he move the ball in and out of the strike zone? Things like that. Okay, a guy's up to the plate. Oh, the ball really jumps off his bat. I know, but he takes a third strike, trying to hit the ball hard. I think the other thing is there's so many teams playing in so many tournaments. It's such a big market, and all over the country. And of course, all these featured tournaments where you go to Cooperstown and all these places, and people like to do that. I mean, there's people that are bought in, but you've got kind of a couple types of teams. You got these teams where you get the best players, they're usually best players in the youth league level, the ones that have dads that play catch every night with them and are really into it. And then they put those teams together and they go play a lot of games and they win games and they win tournaments. But did they learn how to take the lead properly off of first base? Is there a lot of practice time? A lot of these upper level teams or these Team USAs and the ones that these showcase teams that are playing all the time, they hardly ever practice. They just come in and play games together. And so it's kind of lost that teaching aspect of it, I think. It's just my opinion. And I think it's affecting the game. It's kind of eroding the fundamentals from the kids coming up from what it was maybe 20 years ago. Now, is that good or bad? The thing is, they play more games. They got more game experience. So there's a plus there. Plus, you want more kids playing baseball, and they all want to play good competition. And, they're fighting soccer and lacrosse, for kids to play. But I think you're seeing that more and more, you're getting less and less American players at the big leagues. And I think it's kind of a cumulative effect for what's been happening over the last 20 years or so.
How many games is too many games?
It all depends if you're playing year round or if you're playing in the spring. I don't know. I don't know if there's a number for it. And again, I just,
right?
It depends on your age, depends on your level of commitment, depends on what you want to do. I mean, everybody has a different philosophy. Some people, they want to play every weekend. They're totally 100% into it. Other people say, hey, we want to play baseball, but we'd like to go on a family vacation, or my son likes to fish too. So there's things that go on. So I try to achieve my personal philosophy is I want them to play baseball, but I want to have some weekends during the fall, during the spring, where they can go and do family things, and I'm smart enough to know I never play on Mother's Day. So there's certain things you got to do. And there's some people that say, I want to play on Mother's Day. My kid's in this thing. So there's different levels of intensity. And that just goes along with the coach's philosophy or the organization's philosophy. And I think it's like anything else. There's a lot of choices. So you choose which one fits what you want to do with your son. Personally, I think more instruction is better. But kids nowadays, they pick it off the internet. They're internet people. They pick up TikTok videos and they feel like that's instruction, but it's the way our society and our country's evolved, in that kids are screen happy and they watch a lot of things on YouTube and watch a lot of things and feel that's vital information.
So you're a college baseball coach now. How do you take that information and mold it into what you're looking for and try to get past some of the bad habits that are picked up somewhere along the way and instill the good ones? I mean, it sounds like a pretty daunting task when you're talking about this many players and this many games to evaluate.
Well, what's got to happen is, and I think baseball is doing this in baseball, we're talking about, they're expanding their coaching staffs. Okay. Back when I was coaching, they didn't have the summer showcase teams. They just, kids were just playing, Legion Bowl or whatever. So if you want to see a kid play, you had to go on a Monday night to a meet to watch the kid pitch against Springfield High if you had a kid that you wanted to see. They don't do that now because they wait until the summer, because all these kids are playing in these showcases and playing the summer. So you don't really get them to see with their team. You don't get them to see you're playing for their school. Once in a while they get to state playoffs. But I think as the rules evolve or as coaches make some moves, if you had 2 or 3 players on your team, two or three coaches or staff members that were allowed to recruit during the season to watch these kids playing the game and make evaluations on what kind of teammate are they? How do they react after a strikeout? Are they selfish? When another kid hits a homer, are they the first guy out of the dugout? What kind of leadership do they do? If a pitcher gives up a home run, what's he do with the next hitter? See, if you don't see them in that setting where they're playing for their school, then it's hard to project when they're playing for LSU, their school, how they're going to be. But when you can see them in that setting, it's better than seeing them in a showcase setting where they're not really playing for anybody they play with all year. They don't really know anybody, and they're just going out there to show their talent. You don't understand their teamsmanship or their work ethic and things like that. And that's hard to evaluate. That's the difference in college baseball. In pro baseball, you got talent. You got 125, 150 games per year in the minor leagues for them to figure it out. And you don't have to win in the minor leagues. But in college baseball, they come in, you got to win. So there's more to it. You've got to get more information on the kid in his school setting, I think. Again, this is just my opinion. So don't count me as the grand guru of this. It's just my opinion.
Well, no, but Dan, you spent your life in baseball. You understand what you're talking about here. And I think the minor league example is a good one. All I've been told about the minor leagues, and I, obviously never played or anything like that. All I've been told about the minor leagues is that everybody that is in a minor league ballpark, players, coaches, managers, umpires, broadcasters, grounds crew, public relations guy, every one of them wants the same thing: to get out and move up. and it's all about, hey, I'm not gonna hit behind a runner and move him over, because all that is an out for me. Every one of them wants to move up, and it's some of the showcase situations seem a lot like that. It's a lot of me, and we win, we don't. But if I went 3 for 4, that was a great day. We got beat 12-2, but I got my 3 hits.
Well, what's happened is like you're saying with these showcases, and the guys go out and they try to break a radar gun, or guys try to hit home runs in BP and things like that. We got a lot of people taking private lessons, which I give private lessons. That's part of it.
Wrong. I mean, that's fine. That's great. I mean,
but what's happened is again, people are starting to think that, like, okay, I take hitting lessons, I take pitching lessons, I throw well and everything else. But it's becoming an individual sport. It's not tennis or golf. I mean, it's a team sport. The team aspect is as important, if not more important, than the individual development. So I've always felt like there's 3 levels of coaching. There's the individual development, okay? There's the practice coaching, and then there's the game coaching. And, playing wise, there's individual development, there's, practice habits and practice work ethic and learning, and then there's game performance for the players. And I think we're kind of missing some of that. It's turned into, I got 3 hits, we lost. I didn't run the bases well, but I got 3 hits and I hit a homer. Instead of, we didn't win. Boy, when I ran into that out at second base in the 3rd inning, that cost us the game. I'm going to fix that at practice the next day. I don't think you get a lot of that if you hit a homer.
We're brought to you by Dependable Storage, dependablestorage.com. Semester's coming to an end for the college students. If you need to put your stuff in storage before you come back in the fall, let Dependable Storage help you out. Wide area across Louisiana, state-of-the-art, easily accessible storage solutions, safe, and, of course, climate-controlled mini storage facilities here, so you're not getting into the heat and the humidity, running into problems with your electronics or your personal documents, your furniture. Climate controlled units, indoor and outdoor RV boat parking at Dependable Storage in Baton Rouge, Houma, Jefferson, New Orleans, Prairieville, Slidell, and Youngsville. Like Skip Burtman always says, at Dependable Storage, we want your stuff. Go to dependablestorage.com. And we're also brought to you by Cina. In the heart of downtown Hammond, Cina, an upscale Italian restaurant serving traditional dishes in contemporary fashion, inspired by an abundance of fresh local produce and the ways of old. Cina is creating a unique dining experience, and their goal is to use local ingredients and delicious recipes to create an exceptional dining experience, while also providing a fresh and inclusive atmosphere that can be enjoyed by everyone. In the heart of downtown Hammond, Cina Italian restaurant. Dan, let's talk about what this team can do. They're in a bad spot. They're 6-12 in the league. They've got 12 games left in the league, but 3 of them are against teams that are very much up at the top of the RPIs. I know you'll be delighted this year, Dan. We don't probably talk as much about RPIs, but I'm going to do it here for a second. Georgia, Mississippi State, and Florida, who are all in the top 20 in the RPIs. 2 of those series are on the road, so it's going to be tough. But what now for Jay Johnson? Because there's still a month and change of this season left.
It's a tough call. Maybe again, I'm guessing maybe with his statement that he made about roster construction, it won't happen again. Hey, maybe you start playing the guys that he wants to see. If he wants them to come back, these younger guys might play. Once you're mathematically out of the competition to play in a regional, why not play these guys and see if they can develop and see if you want to keep them? I mean, I think he's got to play to build the team for next year right now. I think he's got to make some decisions on people. So guys that, he's already, kind of made a decision on, he probably won't play as much because I don't think it matters who plays right now. I think we played everybody, but like a guy like William Schmidt's got to pitch and develop. He's got to, because he's got to come back. And, Casey Evans, is he draft eligible? I don't think he is he?
He's not. No.
Right. So you got to keep working with Casey Evans and make sure he comes back. I mean, I think, guys like Mason Braun got to play a lot. I think that's important. He's got to see if those guys can be the dudes next year that he can count on and then build his roster around those guys.
Evans and Schmidt, to me, are the 2 biggest components because you would like those 2 guys to be right at the head of your rotation, or certainly your 2 of your most important pitchers next year. Dan, I maintain that, no, these guys haven't pitched great all the time, but they have been let down defensively so badly that I think it's rattled their confidence a little bit. That's just my opinion. And so I don't know what you do about that, but you're a pitching coach. How would you handle them in the last 4 weeks of the regular season?
They just got to look at what they're doing, and they can't worry about what's going on behind them on defense. And I know that's easier said than done, Charlie. It's tough. I mean, you go out there, you make a pitch, and now you need to play on defense. For example, on Sunday there was a ball hit up the middle. They had to shift on, and Tanner Reeves got up and made the play. Milam couldn't get it. Reeves got it, threw it. Throw pulled him off the bag. If you make that play, it's a different game. There's a lot of plays like that. The non-plays, they're not errors, but they're non-plays. Or you make an error that could end the inning, and now your next thing you know, you give up 2 more runs. It's a mental letdown. It's like, if it keeps coming, it's like, how many times do I have to get to this point where I need somebody to pick me up, but instead we don't make the play, and now you put the pressure on yourself, and you try to make the outs yourselves. And if you're trying to hit homers, if you're trying to get hits, if you're trying to strike people out, it doesn't work. The game doesn't work like that. You've got to play each pitch as its own organism, and you've got to just play one pitch at a time and let the game unfold the way it's going to unfold. And everybody on the defense has got to do their job. Everybody on the offense has got to do their job, whatever the circumstance is. And that's how teams win baseball games. And that's not happening, and that's wearing the pitchers down.
Let me finish on what could be a positive note. I don't know if it will be or not, but we've seen LSU teams in the past that dug themselves a hole. One of Jay's teams did 2 years ago. One of Maneri's teams did and got hot late. These are all within the last 5 or 6 years. That 21 team that I think finished 13-17 in the league made a super regional. We saw an Ole Miss team with Mike Bianco, last team, get in the tournament and ride it all the way. The 08 team in the middle of April was struggling along at 6-11-1, Dan, only a half game better than what this team is now. And then they reeled off 23 in a row. I'm not telling you I expect them to run off 23 in a row. I would settle for 2 in a row at this point. I'd settle for probably 1 in a row. But there is still a lot of baseball left to play, and there's still some talent on that team. So there's some things that you can go out there and do that are going to be good for the program, good for the players individually. And even if it doesn't produce a postseason this year, can give you some momentum going into the offseason. but again, I like you said, it's easier said than done. But you were coached the psychology of getting a team to play when things just have not gone well.
I mean, you just got to see if you can get that. What you're saying, you get that message across. And like I said a little earlier here, it just depends on when you're mathematically eliminated and it can't be done. Which they're not.
Yeah.
But if you're mathematically eliminated, then you shift. But until then, hey, you say to them, we got to get this thing together, because if not, we're going to have to make a move for next year. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to give up on this year. So don't give up. There's still a chance. It's a baseball game. Let's get hot, because we do know one thing about the NCAA selection committee. They like what happens at the end. Plus, if you can get in the SEC tournament and make a run there, that's going to pick up your RPI, which I hate, but it picks up, your credibility with the selection committee, because it's the SEC. So you're in the right conference to make a run and get hot at the end and still get in, even though your record may not be, outstanding.
Midweek game against UNO at the Box, and then 3 at Duty Noble Field in Starkville, 6 o'clock Friday, 6:30 Saturday, and 1 o'clock on Sunday. As LSU goes up, where, by the way, Mississippi State has lost their last 6 home games in a row. This past weekend, they went to South Carolina and got a road sweep. They returned home for the 3rd time in 4 weekends. So LSU will be up there in Starkville. And we'll be with you again next Monday and let you know what went on in that series. For Dan Canevari, I'm Charles Hanagriff. This has been the Handycast.